Is it really just a game? Or is there more to it? The countless hours of hard work and dedication, relentless honing of skill for the chance at achieving the highest possible goal. The one goal everyone is chasing. An earning that can lie in the hands of the others you compete with, even if you aren't competing for the same trophy. Even when you've done everything in your own power to make it in one piece, when there is no accountability at the hands that hold your fate, become an ever-growing danger. As the sun sets and the lights cast their cold shadows, the danger lurks even further. And when the sun rises again, the threat is no less. 24 hours was proven not enough for self-containment. Spin after spin, penalty after penalty, races ruined one after another. And the danger still pushed on. No force great enough to put everyone at ease. No level of consequence to put an end to an unstoppable force. When does the overlying problem become too much to ignore? How much does it take to realize it's been enough? What we've witnessed in the 2026 Daytona 24 was unlike anything we've seen come before it. This is the story of a team that finished with 518 incident points.
For me, really it came down to the last, I would say 8 hours or so, but especially the last two. For the last 8 was kind of when we kind of started to realize that there was an issue. Like, to be honest, like overnight and early on, we knew that they were getting in trouble, but we really didn't realize how many off tracks and how many incidents they were getting. But when we were in the final 8 hours, that was when everybody kind of realized that something was going on. And then the last 2 hours, we especially went out of our way to stay as far away from them as possible. So, yeah, I mean, those last 2 hours, even though we were a lot of laps ahead of second, you know, we were still, you know, very paranoid about it.
We were pretty much having to completely avoid this person. Alan was having to spectate him to make sure that Tony wasn't getting wrecked out because we had built up this lead and didn't want to have our race ruined. So that's really all that I wasn't really affected. My driving wasn't affected, but it definitely that last 2 hours, it was like listening to a battle more than a race.
You'd see them and the car would always be messed up. You'd no idea what was going on until really the last 3 or 4 hours when people started to pay attention to it, you know. But then, yeah, the last hour was all about survival. I know we were 8 or 9 laps up, but then you still don't want to run the risk of it, you know. I'd pit when he was behind us or in front of us, because I knew I'd catch up to him eventually, just to preempt it, and lo and behold, it worked, because the amount of times he had to pit after that, it was too many times.
To put it in perspective, 518 incidents over 24 hours averages out to about 21.6 incidents per hour. Over their 581 completed laps, that's nearly an incident per lap. And with 12 turns a lap, puts an incident at about every 13 turns. And just to really pile on the statistics, with the endurance layout being 3.56 miles long, that's an incident every 4 miles, or 6.44 kilometers.
Because, you know, these races, they take up like a whole weekend. in my instance, I had to work the following day at like 11 a.m. So I had to plan out the day before, make sure I got enough sleep. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just a special event, obviously. And it offers a unique challenge. And that's what I really like about it.
You're in the middle of the night, you got in an accident, and that feeling, you're not going to win, but you just kind of have to pull yourself through.
Everyone's mindset towards racing around the 15 was essentially a SEER exercise. Survive, evade, resist, and escape. And not all of us were lucky enough to complete those tasks, including my own team. Alan, Will, and Tony won GTD, but the 15 and the actions committed on the behalf of still plagued their minds. Watching their own competition being wiped out along with the LMP2 and GTP frontrunners left a lasting impression on all three.
Yeah, it was good to win, but it wasn't the circumstances you want to win, because I know P2 was wiped out. But yeah, it was still fun to win, just not with the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit there was a little bit of kind of disappointment. We were excited to win, and before we really realized what was going on, I mean, I'll be 100% honest, we were still in position to win whether this car was out there or not. We were still, I believe, 4 laps ahead when GT3 was legitimately, that was in good position, was legitimately taken out. But still, I mean, don't get me wrong, it felt great to win. It was awesome. Me and Will were lucky enough that this was our second Daytona 24 win. We won in 2022 as well. And but still, I mean, it was a great feeling to win. But this one did kind of have that little bit of a cloud over it. You know what I mean? So, but it was still a good feeling to win.
How might the experience with the 15 this year affect your enjoyment and the appeal of doing endurance races in the future?
So that was the number one reason why I felt that it was necessary to go in and clip all of the incidents, because it made me, and I think I even mentioned this to Tony in the closing hours, I said, if this is how it's going to be, I don't want to do special events anymore. I mean, I would much rather do a hosted event like the majors from now on, because this just can't happen. And I do want to make it clear, I wasn't trying to embarrass them or anything. I kind of do feel bad if none of what they did was truly intentional. Then, it's very unfortunate. But at the same time, that it shouldn't have been allowed to happen, for the DQs to have been taken out, and for a car that blows its engine, I believe it was at least 4 times throughout the race, and not to mention the number of times that they went nose first into a tire wall, which, that's going to be a race ender in real life most of the time. It was very unfortunate that they were able to keep their car going, and so for me, it definitely makes me consider whether or not I want to do these special events in the future. It's you kind of can't help but sit here and think, why bother to put in the time if you're just going to get taken out by a car like that? So it definitely makes me consider things.
If I'm that team, that makes me I'm going to be scared that I'm going to get taken out by somebody just randomly. That's having a fear like that in iRacing is something that really shouldn't be here, because that's the reason that iRacing exists, is because you come to this service expecting to have, almost professional style racing, and that is not what we saw in this lobby, obviously.
Yeah, and exactly what Will says there. It's iRacing's graded to a professional standard. You pay professional money. Everything has to be paid through your own pocket. So it's very sad to see races, especially endurance races, that people prep hours and hours on end for, end like this. So I think there has to be some sort of moderation in place there before I will probably compete in more endurance races again. I'm not sure about everyone else, but the way it is at the moment, it just doesn't appeal to me as much as it used to. I think that's largely due to a growing population on the game, but I don't know if it's just down to random selection or anything.
Based on what I've learned from my conversations and the observations of the platform in its current state, it can be deducted that the core user base is slowly looking away from doing events like the Daytona 24, and possibly looking for somewhere entirely new for sim racing as a whole, especially with other options continuing to look more appealing. The lack of consequence for breaking sporting code and the lack of moderation with special events in particular has people reconsidering their money spent.
It very much could be utilized very differently, especially for the special events. It's surprising to me that they aren't using it for the special events, where I feel like it's arguably more important than just like your every hour, C-fix. Because
Right.
these are events that people have put, a week or weeks or months of preparation into, to have these close battles over a simulated 24 hours. To not utilize the thing you've put in place or not replace it, to me just seems, I don't want to call it a failure on iRacing's part, but it feels like there's a bit of an allowance for this to happen without something else in place. It's difficult how I want to phrase this, because I don't want to say that this is all iRacing's fault, because I don't think it is. But the fact that this was an oversight. I'll put it this way: it feels like an oversight on iRacing's part to not have a DQ limit. That's my biggest issue, because you can't let a team, even if it's bottom split, you have folks that aren't good. You have a team that's not good, that's getting into a lot of incidents, that's crashing a lot. Even if you have that 500 incident points, you could only get a max of 4 at a time. I don't understand how you see that, how that can happen, how that is allowed to happen.
As the morning continued to grow, so did the story. It may have been sleep deprivation that got to the two drivers of the 15, or a switch flipped and they lost all care. The incidents got more frequent. The chatter about the 15 began to circulate on the radio, and as hours were closing down, mistakes and damage were becoming more of a race-ruining worry. The tension in the session became tighter. Avoiding a wreck was on top of the priority list, especially for those who were fighting for podium positions. With a wreck bad enough, a multi-lap lead could easily diminish and even grow into laps down. As everyone was trying to stay vigilant through heavy eyes, the worst of it would make its way later. In my own reflection of this year's 24, it being my first, it was a bit of a daunting challenge. The nerves were real, especially during my first stint, and having to deal with the fear that the 15 might take us out while I'm in the driver's seat was always at the forefront of my mind every time I caught a glimpse of that green Porsche. We'd always try to have another person spotting for the driver, which was a challenge with only 3 of us, but having that guidance and a second mind for awareness really helped. My teammate, having been wrecked by them right at the end of their first stint, really set the tone for racing around them. I didn't really try to let it bother me, but the more I heard it coming over the radio, the closer we got to the end, it definitely wasn't letting itself disappear. Not to mention, with a podium position on the line in my first 24, I didn't want the most obvious hazard to play a factor in us not achieving that podium. That being said, the 15 took out several leaders and front runners towards the end. They wrecked the LMP2 leader, but it wasn't enough for them to lose their multi-lap lead. If I can recall correctly, the LMP2 that was in a position ahead of us was taken out, and that gave us an almost guaranteed spot in third place as long as we stayed out of trouble in the closing laps. The GTD runner-up was taken out, as was explained by the guys at XP Motorsports, and as I had alluded to before, the worst of it. The Paddock Racing Team, driving the number 113 Porsche GTP, would be horrifically taken out of the overall lead into Turn 1. The wreck caused enough damage to force him down to third place, and with only about 45 minutes left in the race, there wasn't much they could do to crawl back. Professionalism from the team was astounding. To have done everything right, and worked so hard to win the 24, and to lose it so late, they still held composure, finished the race, and congratulated the winning team amongst the bitter taste that was surely left behind.